please identify either a current or a former judge that you would hold as a role model and explain to the audience why you would hold that individual as that model.
I would have to say, which is probably an obvious answer, but I'll go with it anyway. My father, Jerry, who was the judge in this jurisdiction for 21 years, and in fact, the first judge in Burton. And for a lot of reasons, the fatherly ones I won't talk about, but I think his practice on the bench was one of firmness but fairness. I think he exemplified giving everybody a chance, and what I intend on doing if I obtain the seat is to practice in a similar manner, engender respect within the courtroom, but at the same time be just and fair, and I think that's what he did the best. I tell a story when I'm out walking around that I was with my mother once, who's here tonight, and we were in court watching him. I was about 7 years old, and she wanted me to be aware and understand what the courtroom was all about and what demeanor you were supposed to have in the courtroom. And apparently I hadn't learned that quite yet because he had to have bailiffs back then, and he had the bailiff come and grab me out of court, and he threw me in the holding cell. So I certainly remember that just like it was yesterday. And but what it taught me was that there's a certain amount of respect that you have to have for sitting judges, and I certainly have that, and you should demand that respect in the courtroom. I think perhaps we lack a little bit of that today, and I'd like to bring some of that back.
Thank you. Next question. We'll start with Mr. Snodgrass. State the skills that you believe make you qualified for this position, and in that regard, we're looking to perhaps limit your answer to about 50 words. 50 words.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Okay. Brevity, that's my one skill that I'm bringing. 50 words. I've practiced law in the prosecutor's office for almost, actually this month it's 11 years. I've tried more than 150 cases. But more importantly than the trial skills, I've been in about every division in the office. The office's only community prosecutor. Done about everything there is to do in the office. I think it's my community service that I think is going to affect this job, and my doing it the most. As you said, you stole my thunder, Mr. Eisen. But this is the office, the political office, that citizens have the most contact with, more than any other office. And I believe that if you haven't served the community as I have, that you're not going to have the knowledge that you need to do this job. Was that 51 or 52?
Close. Okay. Thank you very much. Now we're going to look at this circumstance from a little different perspective. The last question dealt with the skills statement. This question will deal with a critique of the individuals who are sitting before you this evening. And they're going to be critiquing themselves in 4 different areas, which all are important with respect to what it takes to be a good judge. You've heard one of the candidates up here tonight say that a judge is a decider. That's what a judge does. A judge is the scale of justice going like this. That's what the judge does. So, starting with Mr. Rush, I'd like you to critique yourself, and there's 4 different areas that you're going to critique yourself in. The first is integrity. The second is impartiality. The third is legal ability. Perhaps they've all touched on that before. And the last is temperament. Those are the 4 areas that I'm going to ask each of the candidates to speak to in 50 words or less with respect to each one of those areas. We'd like a brief, if you will, critique of yourself with respect to each one of those qualities. Thank you. And Mr. Snodgrass, please respond.
Thank you. Starting with impartiality, starting with integrity, I've sat on the board of 3 nonprofit organizations in this community. Consortium on Child Abuse and Neglect, I was a board member for 5 years. I've been a board member at Habitat for Humanity for 5 years, and for the past 7 years, I've sat on the board of Old Newsboys of Flint. And I was the past president of that organization in 2008, which I'm very proud of. I think it goes without saying, to do that, you have to have the highest integrity. They don't obviously let you maintain a position on a board if you don't display that every day in the things that you do and in the decisions that you make. So that's what I'd highlight in the fact of my integrity. There are certainly others. Being a prosecutor, I think you have to hold yourself to a higher standard, and I've done that my entire career. With respect to impartiality, certainly I prosecute cases on a daily basis, but more importantly, I have the opportunity to write warrants and make decisions about who is charged and who is not charged. And you have to have an innate sense of impartiality to do that. I had a professor at the Notre Dame Law School where I attended that told me that I wanted to be a civil rights attorney when I was younger, and he said the best place that you can affect civil rights is in the prosecutor's office, because you can affect change. You can make sure that the police do what they're supposed to do. And so I've sort of lived in that way. But more importantly, I think with respect to impartiality, I have 2 sons, 7 and a 4-year-old, and you have to be impartial when you have 2 children to break them up. So with respect to legal ability, like I said, I was trained at the Notre Dame Law School. I'm very proud of that. I've had the opportunity to attend many trainings throughout the course of my career. Most recently, I was picked by the Secret Service to be trained, one of 24 in Alabama, about computer crime. And then finally, I would indicate with respect to temperament, go back to my community service. Obviously, you have to have the right temperament to run an organization like that, and I did that in 2008. Thank you.
Thank you. How do you deal with difficult people, including peers, lawyers, judges, clients, and litigants?
Thank you. You know, this is a tough question. I have to admit, in thinking about it, I racked my brain for the toughest cases that I've tried while at the prosecutor's office, and 2 came to mind. I prosecuted a very difficult domestic violence case where you would think the defendant would be the person that you deal with that would be the difficult person, but in this case I had a victim that unfortunately was wrapped in a cycle of domestic violence and was so angry with me at prosecuting the man who had beaten her up that she actually had to be taken out of the courtroom herself. And there's another case that I prosecuted where a young man was killed in the area, and a different kind of difficult person, victims who weren't getting what they wanted out of you as a prosecutor. You couldn't do enough for them to affect what they wanted to have happen. And I think basically I say that for the reason that you have to experience difficult people. You have to be doing it. You have to understand that it's not something that you can just say and then do. It's something that you have to do over and over and over again. The very first time I had a difficult witness or a difficult victim, I certainly wasn't very good at it. And I apologize to those people now, but after the experience that I've had, both in the courtroom and doing community service, I think you gain it. It's something that you have to do over a course of time. The other thing that's affecting that in terms of my situation is when I was the president of Old Newsboys in 2008, I had to hire and fire people. And that's a skill I think that probably most of the folks up here haven't had to do. And again, I think it's something that you have to have experience with in order to understand.